Nearly half a century ago, BMW launched its motorsport division with the M1. The brand's then new flagship was based on the turbo concept, and it was BMW's first mid-engine supercar. Today, the M1 is nothing short of an icon, but it has lacked a proper successor for some time. Fortunately, it seems that BMW has a new high-end performance car in the works. Hey, I'm Creech, and this is Creech and Cars, where I talk about car news, history, and culture. Today, I'll be going over everything we know so far about this new BMW M flagship supercar. Let's start by getting an idea of what this new BMW supercar will look like. So far, it's only been spotted in heavy camouflage, but we have seen enough for artists like Sugar Design, make sure to check him out on Instagram, to be able to put together these nice renderings showing what the M1 will probably look like. First of all, this new performance flagship definitely implements the Neue Klasse design language. I do have a separate video that goes more in depth on this new era for BMW, but you can see a great example of what the Neue Klasse really means here as far as exterior design goes. Up front, the kidney grille is somewhat recognizable, but it's much more elongated than we're used to seeing on other BMWs. Although this does fall in line with the small, skinny kidney grille used on the turbo concept M1, the original 8 Series, and the i8. So while it does look different, BMW is still calling back to iconic designs with this front end. These small laser LED lights are barely noticeable in the design, especially during the daytime, and there is a lower grille to cool the battery. The side profile shows the wedge shape that again calls back to classic 80s supercars like the M1, but also the Porsche Tip Hero concept, which started major trends in supercar designs upon its debut over 50 years ago. Personally, I think the wedge shape still works very well here in this modern and more angular approach to it. The wheels are large with a complex and high-end design. Towards the rear, the back end rises up, and this high back end houses a thin light bar and a taillight design that isn't too dissimilar from what we've already seen on new BMW models. There is an aggressive diffuser on the rear bumper, and the gloss black color could accent a multitude of body colors very nicely. We haven't really been able to get any glimpse of the interior of this new M car, but the good news is that all of the Neue Klasse cars will have a similar feel. So let's take a look at the Neue Klasse concept interiors that BMW has already brought forth. With this new era of interior design, BMW is prioritizing window area. This will increase the visibility and the natural light that comes into the interior. This can definitely be seen on this new M1 inspired car with its large rear windows and glass roof. The Neue Klasse interiors are largely minimalistic and honestly just boring. However, they have shown this nice duotone color scheme, but other than that, there's just a small center console and one large center infotainment screen. One thing that is pretty cool is the panoramic vision, as it's called. This is a supplement to the main screen that is projected across the entirety of the bottom of the windshield. This screen shows things like your speed and range and things that would normally be on a gauge cluster display, and you could basically think about this screen as replacing the gauge cluster. The seats in this Neue Klasse coupe should have a little bit of a sportier design than what you see here, but overall, it will probably be mostly minimalistic. I've talked about before that I really don't like the minimalist approach, especially in very expensive cars, but it seems that that's the direction BMW will be heading in. But what matters the most with any performance car is, of course, the performance. The one thing that we do know for sure is that this new model will be fully electric. The spy pictures clearly show the vehicle being plugged in and charged, and there's a prominent absence of any exhaust system or other indication of an internal combustion engine, so no hybrid powertrain here. This isn't a reason to be disappointed, however. This M1 successor will of course be built around the Neue Klasse platform, which is specifically designed to bring the most performance out of an electric powertrain. The first M car to be built on the Neue Klasse platform will likely be the M3, and it will share a lot of its underpinnings with this new supercar. BMW has previously commented on the maximum output potential of its Neue Klasse powertrain setup, and while a lot of people were thinking those numbers would be possible for an M3 or M5, it turns out the maximum power figures may be reserved for this supercar, which will serve as the flagship for the M sub-brand. That's just my estimation for right now, but the CEO of BMW M has said that the Neue Klasse platform will enable the use of up to 4 independent motors that could total 1 megawatt of power, which is the equivalent of about 1,340 horsepower. That's an absolutely insane number, especially considering the current M3 competition makes about 520 horsepower and the M5 about 720. This massive jump leads me to believe BMW is targeting over 1,000 horsepower for a very special car, which just might be a new M1. Reports have suggested that this supercar will feature a hub motor setup, and funnily enough, it has now been confirmed that BMW is partnering with a German startup called Deep Drive to test dual rotor hub motors. This design merges an internal rotor and an external rotor, which are driven at the same time, greatly increasing the torque density, and that would make it possible to essentially have 2 electric motors that are small enough and light enough to be built into each wheel hub. With this setup, the car would essentially have 8 times the power compared to a typical electric SUV with just one standard motor. Now let's dig a little bit more into what the model might actually be called and where it will fit into the lineup. This story sort of starts back at the beginning of the year when a BMW designer shared renderings of the BMW i16 that was in development to replace the i8, but that project was canceled during the pandemic. Around that time came this flood of super SUVs with the Urus and DBX, and riding that wave, BMW instead came out with the XM instead of a more proper sports car. But as you may know by now, that model is being discontinued after its poor reception and low sales. Then there have also been many reports of an upcoming i8M. This would be a supercar and flagship for the M division, but it would be a hybrid, and from the spy shots we looked at earlier, it seems that that car is fully electric. So it seems we have a lot of this loosely connected information, but BMW is definitely up to something when it comes to debuting a new sports car or supercar. So here's my opinion as of right now. I think this new entry-level supercar will be a spiritual successor to the i8 and a distant one to the M1. As an electric coupe, it's quite the opposite of the XM, but it will effectively take the XM's spot in the lineup with a starting price of around $175,000. Due to none of this being official yet, it will likely be some time before we actually see the production version of this model. This new supercar could be revealed sometime in 2025 or 2026 and go on sale for the 2027 model year. So there's everything we know right now about BMW's all-new upcoming Neue Klasse coupe, which could be an ultra high-performance supercar and BMW M flagship. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest of the channel and subscribe to stay up to date on car news like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.